Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the Atlanta SEO for Local Businesses Meetup. I am Tricia Clements here with my co-organizer, Andy Simpson. We have our meetups the second Wednesday of the month at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I have links in the chat to our YouTube, Facebook, and our meetup group. I'll also include those on our YouTube video. So make sure you check those out for our next meetup. So today, what we thought we would talk about is kind of like a year-end thing for 2023. Our last meetup for 2023 is basically year-end review and local SEO Q&A. So we're going to just kind of start off. First, there are a couple things that we've got that we want to talk about, but does anyone have any questions to start off with? Go ahead, type them in the chat. While you all are typing that in the chat, Andy and I are going to talk about a new local ranking factor, brand new. And if you haven't heard about it, we've got a link we'll put into the chat.
Don't get excited about this one, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've got a link to a blog in the chat that Sterling Sky did. And
Perfect.
basically saying that business hours are a new ranking factor. And what we mean by that is if you have, someone is searching for your business during hours that your business is not open on Google and your competitor is, your competitors will show in the search results for the pack, and you will either not show or be shown way down. All the ones that are open will be shown at the top. So that's something brand new. One thing I want to make clear is that this is currently a ranking factor. We don't know if it's going to change. Google doesn't tell anybody anything. So this is how it's working now. How it's going to work next week, next year, we have no idea. So a couple things about that. One thing I noticed just this week is if you're doing reports, ranking reports, whether it's for yourself or your clients, make sure you're running those reports during open hours, because if you run them at night and your client is closed and that they're going to show that they're ranking really low, and their competitors that are open at that time are going to show high, and the reports aren't really going to be, it'll be reflective of that specific time, but it's not going to be reflective of all the time. So one thing to note about that. Another thing is, if your business has answering machine, and you actually are basically open 24/7, then it would be beneficial to put in there open 24/7. But don't change it to 24/7 if you actually have no one answering the phone and you're not actually open. So that was basic for a lot of brick and mortar. That you're going to kind of have your just standard office hours. But for some, they may have like answering things like kind of like emergency numbers and stuff like that. So it's something to consider if you're kind of on the fence about whether to change it to 24 hours or not. Just you need to make sure that somebody's answering the phone if you do put it 24/7. So
I'll show,
jump in, because I know you have a lot of stuff to talk about.
I was going to show a couple of examples just to sort of show it visually and what the data says. And we think this has been, I think this has probably been live 2 or 3 weeks. Something like, yeah, that sort of time scale, 4 at the most, I reckon. But anyway. So what I've been doing, surprise, surprise, is some testing, because I needed to show my colleagues and our clients what was happening. So let me share my screen. So can you see that chart? Can you see? Yes, great. So my client, there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4 businesses there, blue, green, yellow, and red. My client is in the red. Can you spot? So they're ranked, they kill it locally in their area with their 3-pack, or have been, for their practice area. And that's the top red. Can you spot the time when they actually close the weekend? I think you can go. And their competitors who are open 24 hours a day or 24/7. They completely took over that 3-pack during the weekend, and then come along Monday morning, boof, my client is back up to there at the #1 position. So that's quite a nice visual to show the complete drop and switch over in visual, ranking in the 3-pack there. Another example from yesterday, I thought I'd keep it local business. I had a haircut, not that this bit's very interesting, but I had a haircut yesterday. You may or may not, I'm going bright red now. So Monday, my barbershop is closed on a Monday and they open at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. So on Monday, now because I knew this was live, this is why I did this test. I did barbershop near me, and that's the 3-pack. Okay. I then did barbershop near me after 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning. And because I know that the barbershop is literally 5 minutes down the road, it's the 𝗪𝗠𝗄𝗏's barbershop and now appearing in the local 3-pack. But because they were closed, they're not, I have no idea what that's, another screenshot of something else. Oh, I've lost that screenshot. They didn't appear in the, I just went on to another image then. But because they were closed, they weren't appearing in that 3-pack. Yeah. So I think Tricia and I were talking about it before this session started. If you've got customers researching what they want to do, I want to go for a haircut, I want to buy some flowers, I want to do this. If you're not appearing open, say somebody's doing research in an evening, and you're closed during the evening, obviously, you're not going to be appearing in that 3-pack.
Yeah. And to me, like I said earlier, we have no idea if this is going to be changing or going away, or who knows what's going to happen with this. To me, looking at it from more of a user perspective, I kind of don't like it because I do a lot of research after hours, and then maybe I might be researching somebody and I'll write down 3 business names to call, and I'll call them when they're open. But I do the research after hours. So I don't, like I said, we don't know what Google's going to do. But that's one thing why I can understand that they're searching as far as, places they're open. But then those of us who like to research when they're closed, it doesn't really help us. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Stan says something interesting. Closing soon is 1 hour before close, and open soon is 30 minutes before open. Yeah, I've seen that. I don't know that I've actually looked at the specific timing, but that's interesting that it's an hour before close and a half hour before opening.
With one thing with my clients I've tested, and that barbershop actually, and again I said to Tricia, I did a test at like 9:59, they weren't showing. 10 o'clock, they're open, and bang, they were in the 3-pack.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's not that there's not a half-hour window. Oh, these guys might be open in half an hour. In this case, it's night and day. You're either open or you're closed.
For ranking. And another thing too is, before deciding, oh, well, we need to have an answering service and we need to be open to it, look and see what the competition's doing. If nobody is open in your area at midnight, don't waste money on an answering service to say you're open 24/7, because none of your competitors. I mean, that's the thing. Kind of look first and do Andy, the chart that you showed that was really interesting, where the competitors were open 24/7 and your client was closed during the weekend. A question, and is that using Looker Studio, or what was that using?
That's Local Falcon.
Local Falcon. Okay, Local Falcon. One thing that I mentioned earlier, that I ran into this running a grid report, which is the one that shows the red and green around the area where you're ranking. I ran those for, I used Bright Local, and I actually did one of the things that if you're running these reports, you might want to look in there. So I've reached out to Bright Local and asked them, are they going to be updating how their reports are run? So if you schedule a report, it does it on that day, but you can't set the time that it runs the report. So I'm going to have to go in and unschedule all of those and hand do them for right now. And hopefully they're going to be adding a time of when it's going to be scheduled for the report. So if you've got reports that are scheduled, look and see whatever you're using to see, if it's running reports in the middle of the night and your client's not open or your business isn't open, then you might want to do those by hand or reach out to them and see if they're going to be updating. This is brand new, so I'm assuming that quite a few businesses that do those reports are looking at ways to address that. Hopefully, I reached out to Bright Local and they said they
yeah.
were.
If we get an answer on that, we might leave the answer on the Meetup thread, so
Yeah.
you should all get pinged on that answer, because that is
definitely. I'm not sure how many of you all use Bright Local, but I know that is there, because whenever it does the report, it says it ran it at 3 a.m. I looked at it, I'm like, no, this is no good. I need to rerun this report. So
yeah.
One thing's interesting, several of the keywords I was using, they were still ranked 1 and 2 for, so that was showing on some of those, it didn't matter, but on one of the keywords I was looking at, it definitely did. There was a change in position. So if you're running reports for yourself or for your clients, definitely make note of the time that you're running those reports.
Yeah.
So,
any questions on that? There must be
it's
questions, concerns, feedback. Anybody?
Yeah. We've got, again, I put the link to that article along with the, I think has a YouTube video with it. That's something to.
Yeah, the article's very good. It shows I got the idea from Jan and the guy who ran the experiment. It shows you the same sort of chart, open, close, open again. So I ran the same thing on my clients.
Yeah.
So that's what I got the idea for.
Yeah. Neat. Okay.
No, nothing.
Any questions?
It seems like it's one of those Google things that I don't know who decides these things, but they put it up. It seems problematic, to me. People will try to game it and say they're open 24 hours.
Exactly.
Again, doing research, even on a restaurant. I was thinking, well, maybe it's good for a restaurant, right? You're looking for lunch right now, but if you're trying to find a restaurant for an event coming up, and you need, for 12 people or something,
doing your research,
then they're not going to come up, and it just seems problematic.
Yeah, I definitely from a user standpoint, I see it being very, very problematic for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure.
So I had a theory. So does Google make all these changes just
to annoy us? I think. I'm kidding.
just to get people to say, this is too volatile. Maybe I'll just run some ads, or I'll run ads alongside, my organic and stuff. Because I was thinking the same thing with core updates, September, October, November core updates, and it's like, like who's planning it? Like, what's going on? Who's planning this stuff?
Yeah. Who knows what Google thinks about some of this stuff. Yeah. You don't know. And I'm with you. I think that this has a lot of I see things that they're good, like if you're searching for something right then and you want it to be open, or I do a lot of research after hours. But the thing is that you currently can search. When you're searching, there's a thing that you can filter by different things, and I'm pretty sure that open now is one of them. So people can already filter by that. I'm pretty sure that's on there. Because when I search for things personally for myself, I do use the filters. If I'm looking for certain things, there are different filters like on the map that you can adjust. So yeah.
Your comment there, Bill, reminded me of this article that was just posted on Search Engine Land. So when I'm going to come on to this, but I'll keep it brief. I went to Brighton SEO in San Diego the other week, and Danny Sullivan, who is the search liaison for Google, spoke. He did the keynote on the second day. Fantastic speak. And one of his comments was, buckle up and get ready for 2024, because there's a whole load of crap. I sort of said crap, but it's coming our way. So that the article I just shared in the chat there is it's all, you know, it's all AI focused. It's SGE. What's going to happen? The new Genesis that's been launched in Bard, and yeah. So that's quite an interesting article to read there.
Yeah, 2023 has definitely been interesting and had lots of different new changes, and AI kind of really came to the forefront. So 2024 is looking like it's going to be.
Well, this time last year, November, ChatGPT came out. It was like, shit, what's going on? Then Bing launched, and then that's all 2023 is about.
Yeah.
Now, now obviously Google's involved, and Google's Google, and Google's the one we're sort of all interested in, and everything else. Next year is like, well, it started already. Genesis has just been incorporated. SGE is supposed to be until the end of December. So does the end of December mean it's going to go live January the 1st? We don't know. So next year, you know, not just in local search, but a search across the board is going to be interesting.
Yeah. And so we had a meetup about SGE a couple of months ago. Mention a little bit for people about Genesis, Andy.
Sorry, let me just, I'm male, so I can't multitask. I'm just answering Karen in her chat. Karen, here's the link. Control V. That's today, and I was going to mention it later. That's a link to the Sterling Sky 2023, 2024 state of local search, what's happening, what to do going forward, and blah blah blah. It was a really, really good. That was a great session. That was. Genesis is, oh God, put me on the spot there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, not at all. It's the new updated large language model, LLM, that can look at language, pictures, video, sound. It's been incorporated already into the new Pixel 8 phone to edit images, and it's just the new beast that's allegedly, some tests, is better than ChatGPT, but it's used in a different way. It's the same but different because it's a Google product.
Yeah.
So it's been incorporated into a lot of their products. Yeah. So it's been incorporated. I can go to Google Bard, and now I can say, have a look at my Gmail. I can do @Gmail. If it's the same Google account that's linked to your Gmail account or your Google Docs, you can start saying, look at my document here and summarize that. So you can start doing some very, but they've introduced the new Genesis interface into that, which is, again, is better than ChatGPT 4. Yeah. And that is being rolled into Google Search and SGE, Google Search Generative Experience.
Yeah.
And that's rolling out next year. Well, it's in there allegedly now, I think. So
yeah. Well, so one thing to mention, you're talking about pulling things from your Google Drive and from Gmail. One thing to remember when we had Jenny on talking last month is that anything that you are any data that you're uploading can become searchable.
Public knowledge,
public information,
part of that database.
Yeah, so make sure you're not giving it access to any specific client data that they shouldn't be public. So yeah.
Karen's question was what ? So was that what to the?
No, I'm sorry, Tricia. What did you just say? Any of our data, anything we put in our drive is now searchable?
No. So anything that you upload into the like ChatGPT, Bard, I'm assuming all of them. When Jenny was talking last month, she was saying when you upload things into these AI tools, most of them have on there that it's then
going to their data set, their learning data set.
I got it. Thank you. Sorry.
Not your Google, but then Andy was mentioning, well, if you're attaching in your if this new Genesis is and I don't know as much about this because haven't been using it with Google Drive and Gmail, but that if you pull things from your Gmail and your Google Drive, just be careful what you're pulling in from them.
However, I don't think that if you did a Bard query saying, hey, tell me about Andy Simpson's Gmail that he's been, I would like to think that that information is not going to be part of Google's answer in Bard.
Yeah,
I think there's a separation between personal data and a spreadsheet I might upload about client chat or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. So any information you're uploading, just be careful when you're uploading those to AI. They shouldn't be information, not be private data that you don't want out there. So.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? I do have one other thing I wanted to mention and talk about. That is setting up, let me see, setting up email filters. I highly recommend for your Google business profile going in specifically account owners, but also at this point, I would do any users on the account. Those email addresses, I would go in and set up filters. And what you're going to filter for is anytime that you receive an ownership request, this would be for your Google business profile, to make sure that it does not go into spam, make sure that it's marked. I like to mark it important, star it, don't go into spam, all that stuff. That specific language, you've received an ownership request, and because anytime you get that, you immediately want to reject that. Anytime, even if you've got where you're adding someone or changing someone with the users, that should be done internally through your dashboard. You should not have an ownership request for that, and definitely don't accept any ownership request or change anything if it's somebody who's not the business owner. The business owner should be the owner on the account, just to clarify that. The reason for this is because I have seen recently several Google business profiles basically hijacked. And one, I know that the email for ownership went into spam, and basically the Google business profile was lost. I've seen several people recently that have reached out, and one had over 500 reviews, and they've lost that. So this is just to protect your account. So put that filter in, and just so that anytime that you get an email, you've received ownership request on your Google business profile, just immediately reject it. You can also set up a filter saying anything received from an email account. I'm going to post this in the chat so that you can have this. It is businessprofile-noreply@google.com. Anytime you get that, I would do the same thing. I'm going to do the subject. I'll post that in there as well, where the subject is.
Just as a side note, while you're saying, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
You can also forward those emails to other email addresses.
Yes.
So
yes.
when we get an alert in, say, and we've got like keywords looking for suspended or other thing, it'll come to me, it'll go to Amy, it'll go to, so that we've got more eyes on that account.
Yes.
So you're not always having to check your Gmail to see if you've got one of these emails coming, because you've had it forwarded on to another address.
Definitely.
Sorry.
And no, that's good, because also a lot of times you may have one separate account just for your any Google business profiles, because we mentioned a couple of months ago, one of the changes that Google has is that if you're using an email address on your Google business profile, and you're also using that on other Google platforms like YouTube, Google Ads, and there's something that Google doesn't like, any activity on those other platforms, if Google doesn't like it, it can suspend your Google business profile. So I like to make sure that the email addresses that I'm using are not affiliated with a lot of all these other Google products. And because of that, maybe it's an email that you don't actually read the emails all the time. If that's the case, definitely go in when you're setting these filters up and forward it to your primary email. So, And I put in the chat the email address, businessprofile-noreply@google.com, and the subject, you've received an ownership request. Those are two of the things that I like to do. So any questions about that specifically?
Yeah, I think we've
Any questions about anything else?
Let me see what we use for suspended.
Let's see, we do have a question.
So in the subject line as well, I'll just copy and paste, look for the term. Now, this is not what you want to see, but it is in the body. It will say your profile has been suspended. So we literally just look for those 3 words coming in.
Yeah.
We have that as a there you go. But that's in the body. So in Gmail and Outlook, you can look for, just content in the body. So that's another one that is included. That's one you don't want to be seeing on a regular basis.
Yeah, definitely don't. But
an important one, hence it needs flagging and a filter added so that you see it immediately.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Okay, so let's see. Yeah, definitely add that your business profile has been suspended. That's a good one to have immediate attention to. And while we mention that, I will bring up, hopefully you all are not receiving those emails. One thing to do is, since it's the end of the year, and to get ready to move into 2024, is to get together your supporting documentation, so that if there is an issue with a suspended profile, you've got that information with your business name and address. Things like your Secretary of State, if you have a DBA, things like utility bills, bank statements, things like that, that if you get suspended and you need to send it to Google, and those things that I mentioned, like bank statement, they can be definitely redacted when you send them in. But getting that supporting documentation together, you need to do it now and not, again, hopefully there's no suspensions that you all have to deal with, but if there is one, you don't want to be dealing with this at that point, because then you're waiting for if you've got to make updates on them, you're waiting for other things to update them. For example, the Secretary of State, if there's an address that you need correcting on that before you send it in. I've seen that happen where, you're dealing with the government entity and it took over a month to get the address updated. That's time that your profile's not on the map. And so definitely just a way to prevent having that long wait time. If you can quickly deal with the suspension, the faster the better. So let's see, we had a question here. Stan said, let's see, he has an image. How do we what do we call standard latest menu vibe, but in this case ramen and noodle are specific and not listed. Let me see if I can pull this up for you all to see. Let me share my screen so I can see what.
Yeah, Stan's just shared the local link to the.
Yeah, so he is talking about here, and this is I believe a restaurant where it's got these things at the top. A lot of that Google is in Andy, step in and add to this, but Google looks at the images and kind of, you're clicking on those to look at the different images for like takeout things and ramen and noodle. And those are kind of different based on your category and what Google is looking at and sees in your images.
Yeah, that's AI in place. It's looking and nowadays as well, when you leave a review certainly for a restaurant, it says, was this value for money? How much did you pay for? Did you go for noodles? What drinks did you have? Was there parking? There's a lot of other questions that are data that Google is collecting about that business. So if you've got a business in mind, Stan, leave a review or go through the review process and see what other questions are being asked when that user is leaving a review for that business. Because it's not just a 5-star and leave some text. Mm-hmm. It might be 4 or 5 questions while filling in that review.
Yeah, especially restaurants. A lot of times it's you know, what price range was it? Did you have breakfast, lunch, brunch, dinner? And a couple other things. I'm trying to think the last time when I was leaving one, but they typically ask several questions like that once you leave the review. And then also, if you're adding pictures, they then put on there,
Is this a menu item?
Is this a menu item?
Yeah.
And so then if somebody's going in there and typing in what type of menu item in, then Google is pulling it in there as well.
Now, don't forget, as a business, and if you're a restaurant in this example, you can feed Google your images.
Yes.
So take nice images of all your food and upload it as a...
Andy, do you have that link where you can, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Check to see what Google thinks your image says. And it's off the top of my head.
Google Vision AI or something like that.
Vision AI is what I'm thinking.
Like
I know it's one of those AIs.
Here we go.
But you basically, if you're a business and you want to upload your some images, you can put them through a Vision AI and see what Google thinks that's an image of. And that can be important. So Andy just posted the link to that. So if you've got images you want to upload to your profile, it's recommended that you put them through Vision AI to see what Google thinks of the image, Google thinks it is, because it might be one thing and Google thinks it's something completely different. So
I was going to say, typically used on posts where that image filter is quite strong, you know, when they see a lot of flesh and etc. But maybe food, you might be all right. But then you're going back to what you said, Google might think it's a jelly when it's not a whatever. You get the idea. It's interesting to see how Google interprets that image.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With
sure.
AI.
Let's see. Jeffrey has a question. Does Google use the information from reviews to scrutinize what the client says about their business to ensure there's a match? I don't know, Andy. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, if the business says that they're one thing and every review says that they're not that, you know, Google will probably pick up on that, but mostly probably before Google picks up on any of that, there'll probably be users suggesting edits that the business is not what they say they are. I know Google does look at reviews because they put when you look at a client's reviews, you can see like some of the keywords, top keywords and everything.
Well, the thing with the reviews is, and I think it was Darren from Whitespark, a local SEO, citation company, awesome company. Anyway, he got a review automatically not suspended, but removed by Google because he said that Google said this review is not relevant and just pulled it. So Darren was, and this was just the last week or two. So we were like, is Google now using AI to review that review to see if it's even relevant or not? So that might come into play with like Jeff's question there.
Yeah.
If it's like, well, this doesn't correlate with what business. So
yeah.
You know, to reduce spam. Well, the thing is, spam reviews are left behind and Google doesn't.
That's the thing with Google, you know, sometimes they catch things and remove it. And sometimes even though you report that it's not a valid review, it stays. So, you know, we're kind of on things like that at the mercy of Google.
But certainly if you've got keywords in your, now this isn't a ranking factor, but they can be bolded. So if you're, for me, if you're a personal, because this is my industry, for those that don't know, if you're a personal injury lawyer in Madison, New Jersey, and you write car accident and Madison, New Jersey, and those words can be bolded, the review can be included in the 3-pack and things like that. So that's where Google's using the relevance of that review for other means. So it's nice if you say, you know, if your client could say certain keywords in their review, but it's definitely not a ranking factor for reviews or
There,
for the business.
Justification. So when you're searching for something like Andy just said, and it will have in the 3-pack or wherever the local search results, it'll have on there like the word highlighted, like you were saying. What did you say? Car accident.
Car accident, yeah.
It would have that like shows, and then it'll pull part of that review and say review says, and then have that bolded. So the justifications, that's where that's important.
So going back to Jeff, I suppose there is scrutiny. So Google is looking at the review and doing things with it.
Yeah.
So
I kind of I think as far as like the question to scrutinize what the client says about their business to ensure that there's a match. So I was kind of taking it as far as, does Google say, well, is this business really doing what they say they're doing? But I think maybe your question was more towards the point of, is this review actually match this business? Which I think Andy kind of went over. So
also,
I may have
said a lot of
interpreted that
words.
wrong
Whether
originally.
that helped or not, Jeff, I don't know. So
Yeah.
Jeff really has.
We kind of talked about a lot of different things. Hopefully we answered that question. So,
yeah.
okay. Any more questions that anyone have? Feel free to step in. Okay. I had, let's see, a couple things. Talked about supporting documentation. Again, good time to get it together at the end of the year, making sure your business name and address match. And I would do that yearly, because sometimes the information gets stale. For example, how often most Secretary of State, you have to pay a yearly fee and get it updated. You definitely don't want to find out that you missed it and the Secretary of State dissolved your business. I've looked on things for that and seen that. And so how long is that going to take to resolve? Again, just doing these things to make sure that to prevent issues from coming up. Also, the email accounts that are on your profiles, I mentioned this earlier as well. I do recommend taking a look at all the users on all your profiles, and just making sure if there's somebody on there that maybe you worked with a few years ago and you they're not working with you anymore, remove them from your account. Make sure that you, and I also recommend, I've seen this recently where with several where there was only one email on the profile. I do recommend having at least 2 emails on your profile. So that's something to take a look at, just kind of like as a year-end cleanup, to go take a look at some of those things. And if anything needs to be updated, go ahead and get it updated and put it on kind of like your yearly to-do list to update your things and keep them up to date. Make sure there haven't been any changes. So any other questions about anything we've talked about or anything else this year? Let's see. Mark has a question. Remind me what the new time frame will be to provide supporting documentation for reinstatements. Okay, so these are the new, we mentioned a couple months ago, Google is working on a new reinstatement process. It is currently in the EU, and my understanding, it's been rolled out here in parts of the US. I don't know that it is fully rolled out, but for that, and this is the thing, when it fully rolls out, who knows what it's gonna actually look like. But there is a part of the process when you go through there, and if you get a suspension, instead of clicking on there to go through the reinstatement, get your documentations in order, look at your profile. If you've not gone through a reinstatement, I do recommend you get some help with that. If you've never gone through a reinstatement. When I look at all the documents I've looked at, I've not had one business come to me with all of their documents correct the first time. They always have something that needs to be updated. So that I have to stress, but there's One point on there, when you're uploading your documentation, and again, I have not had one of these, this is still rolling out, but there's a part of the process where you click a certain button and Google will say, you know, you have 60 minutes to upload your information. Once you click that button, that 60-minute timer starts in the background, and you have to upload your information, and whatever you have uploaded is what Google looks at. They don't if you didn't upload it, they're not going to consider it for your reinstatement. So that's another reason to work on getting your supporting documentation together. And also, if you do get a suspension, to not go in and click through things fast. And a lot of times we look at things, we're clicking fast. Don't do that on those email. If you receive an email like that, please don't do that. Definitely don't want to click too fast and then not have your information to upload to Google if there is a reinstatement. Did that answer your question, Mark? Hopefully. And Andy does have a link here he posted.
Yeah, I was going to just, because it's obviously completely, no, it's not off topic, but I've got him. So I went to Brighton SEO in San Diego, which I can highly recommend. The nice thing for me is it was 99% not local. So it was geeky, it was techie, it was about content, it was about marketing, it was about AI, it was about analytics, it was about everything. Greg Gifford was there and did a wonderful talk. He was the only local speaker there and rattled through his presentation, which looked at like 1,000, more than that, thousands of different GBP listings and the similarities and what was different and photographs and all sorts of, but so he was the only local speaker there. So everything else was about AI and Google and content and everything else. It was fascinating, wonderful, great atmosphere. It was a really good conference. You can go up to the speakers afterwards and have one-to-one with them. Awesome. And one of the talks I went to was, and she wasn't the keynote. I think she might have been was Brittany Muller, who has sort of moved. She was part of Moz, so if you know what Moz is, but she's moved away. She's gone into the LLM space, and she's done like almost an idiot guide to what LLMs are and ChatGPT and AI and explaining it. So please, if you want to make yourself a little bit smarter and a bit more switched on about what is happening in this world of LLMs, watch that video. She actually does it's not live. She's done a separate video of her talk that she did at Brighton SEO. And then she also references, she's done a 2-part post on explaining what large language models are. They're fascinating. Well, they're fascinating to me, but I think just reading it or just listening to the video might help some of you that are like struggling a little bit about understanding what these things are and how it might change search. It might explain it a little better. So
yeah.
That's why I've dropped the link in there.
Yeah, he's got the links in the chat, and I will also include it on the information in the YouTube video when that gets posted too.
This is currently the rabbit hole I'm going down at the moment. But with my local head on, it's like, okay, how is all this going to affect us in the local space? And what can we do and how can we get the most from it? So, you know, I've got some interesting things going around in this head that I'm going to be talking about next year. So, yeah.
Yeah, next year definitely sounds
observation and a question. So, yeah. Observation. So on my screen, the black cat was going across Stephanie's back, and then the next window over is Andy's screen, and the black cat appears in Andy's screen. So we got some little black cat magic going on there.
Oh, that's funny.
But I haven't been paying attention the rest of the time.
I thought you said black hat. I was like, what's
we're not doing any of that. Yeah.
Guilt complex. So when the core updates hit in the fall, I did notice a couple of clients that I had, local businesses, and their traffic just, bottomed out, just dropped. I've seen it recover a little bit, but during that time, I was in a semi-panic state. What can I do? What do I need to fix? And so, thinking about EEAT and this particular client, I mean, we've been putting content on their site for a few years now. And I thought, well, if we added a little plug-in so that at the bottom of the screen there's a user profile, the author, the little author bio, would that provide that post or all of these posts with here's the author, and even in the bio list their credentials and certifications or something, and just curious if that would move the needle. Simple enough to do, but I'm trying to get the bio from the client at this point. I may just write it and do it myself anyway, just put it out there. But just wondered if anybody had any drops in traffic with the core updates and any fixes or things that they saw. Like I say, I think I'm seeing that traffic starting to come back now.
Good. Tricia, I've got a couple of answers or feedback for Bill on that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So thankfully, no. Our clients, we've seen ups and downs this year. It's been quite interesting. If you look at the Search Console data and analytics and stuff like that. So one thing I've done for a few clients where we have seen some drops, whether they're algo related or not, what we have seen, my brain's bouncing all over the place for what to say and what order to put it in. So what we have seen is some of our, because they're personal injury lawyers, some of our blogs might be a bit medical related, or you've got this complaint and XYZ. We've seen those blogs drop and more medical related, medical whatever website. God, my brain's gone. The medical sites have started to rank for that term where we had the featured snippet. Now we're down at number 5, and more relevant content, as in relevant sites, because they're medical related sites. They're not some attorney in Kansas City that have started ranking. They're low. They're still on the page, but they're much lower down. So we've seen that happen with certain medical, legal related queries in Google. So what I've done and I used Looker Studio, also known as Data Studio. I looked at the content across the year. I did it in like 3-month blocks. So top landing pages, organic landing pages, and see where that page has changed its rankings across the year to see if it's dropped or gained. And if I'm seeing a piece of content that was ranking highly, if it's starting to drop, it's like, oh, we should be paying. Why has it dropped? Do we need to refresh it? Has it been knocked down by these medical websites or other? So I've been tracking where the content, has it stayed the same? Is it just, a little bit up and down? And I've done that to several sites where we've seen that drop. You would go in, we don't change it completely because that would be stupid, because Google already considers that content as being okay and it's been ranking it. We might be referencing some old data. We'll just give it a little bit of a refresh, a little bit of a tickle, change some dates, change some references. The data is now from 2021 and not 1997 or 20. God, I'm working in the 90s now. You know what I mean? So I'm just fact checking the data and what's said on. And we've seen those pages come back up. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, for some pages, they've gone back up to where we want them to be. But for some pages, they've now got those medical pages keeping them down, and they'll never go back up because Google is now showing the user more relevant content.
Yeah.
So maybe do that. Just see how it might have dropped and increased and dropped and then just give that content. And then going on to your author thing. Now I'm testing this right now, and I've been testing it for probably 3 or 4 months, where I'm adding exactly what you say. But we on our, again, sorry, but this is a good reference. Attorney websites, attorneys have got profiles. So in there, on that profile page, it's a whole load of, they've done these cases and they've qualified in this and they're part of this membership and blah, blah, blah. So it's a really good EAT page. about this user, this person, this attorney. And then if they've written blogs, at the bottom, you know, you've got your, it'll be a bio, but it'll be a very short summary. I'll keep it, this attorney deals in car accidents, person injury lawyer, and blah, blah, blah. They were, and to read more, go to this bio page. So it links through. So there's a tiny little bio.
Yeah.
Then it'll link through to the main bio page.
Yeah.
Just to try and give it, you know, this is the expert who wrote this article.
Yeah.
Whether it's working, it's just for me, I think it's just another tick in the box to try and give some authority or some expertise to that article. How much it's going to change the dial, I'm not sure, but I would recommend doing that.
Yeah.
You know, so this article was written by this person. And yes, the bio is going to be the same on every blog written by that person, but there's no duplicate content. There's nothing, won't worry about that. It's a tiny piece of bloody bio script. It doesn't matter. You're not trying to get that piece of script to rank or anything. You're just telling Google that this piece is related to that attorney. And anyway, so that's what, so what you're doing is, yes, add it, but don't go, it doesn't have to be a massive, you're just making that connection between the, I'll stop talking because I think,
yeah, that makes sense. Any follow-up questions, Bill?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, I mean, that's a simple one. The other thing with this one client in particular is they did change locations. And so I reran their, you know, directory citations and stuff, and they look pretty good. So, but it was one of those where, you know, on a nice sunny September, you know, afternoon, we get a call and our phone's not ringing, you know, and they're in a panic state. And then I pull up their report and you know, oh, their traffic is tanked on my watch. And so,
but did they? We've seen on that, you know, they might have lost did they have a featured snippet that's now just disappeared? They might, and that's happened to a few of our clients. You know, they've been killing it for a particular term.
Yeah.
Relevant, or maybe a little bit, well, it's not really relevant, but it ranks really well. And that featured snippet's just disappeared.
Yeah.
So we've had that happen a few, more than once.
Yeah.
So
okay.
We're running out of time. Let me just share a tip that I got from the conference. If you've got the Google Analytics Universal script on your website still running, take it off. It's a script that doesn't need to be on the site anymore. And it's just not speed per se, but it's just another script you don't need running in the background on your website. So just take it off because it is no longer, you'll still have access to Google Analytics. It's not collecting data. So don't have the scripts on your website.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's good. I know for a while we were running both because they were still collecting and kind of looking at that historical data, but Universal is no longer collecting information. Okay. And Andy has posted a link to some of the decks for Brighton SEO.
So there's some very, very, very smart people spoke at this conference. I know I've gone on about it, but if you look at their top speakers, you click onto their profile, then there'll be a link to either a video they've done or the deck that they shared. I know looking through a deck sometimes makes no sense if you weren't there in person, but there are some good decks. You know, Brittany Muller, she's the one that shared the video of her talk. So there are some good decks in there. Okay. But
all right. I think so. I'll put some of those links in our meetup as well. And if you all didn't get it, and then also on the YouTube video. And also as a reminder, we talked, I think, before we kind of started things, WordCamp US has announced this year in Portland, Oregon, September 17th through the 20th. I posted a link to their Facebook page because I don't see this information when I go to their main page. I may have just missed it, but anyway, for anyone interested, you can go there, and you can also do a what is it called? Oh heavens, a Google alert for like speakers, if you want to know when speakers are opening and when tickets go on sale and stuff like that. I set up Google alerts like when WordCamp speaker stuff opens up. So that's something that you can do if you're interested in that. Okay, so this is the end of our last 2023 local SEO meetup. And our next one is going to be Wednesday, January the 10th, 2024, new year. Please let us know in the meetup if you have any questions, anything that you topics you'd like to see us talk about. We're going to be looking for different speakers in the new year. Yes,
that's what I was going to say. If there's anybody here, because there's some very clever people, if there's anybody here that want 45 minutes of fame or want to practice your speaking or got something to share, then by all means, you know,
Yes.
It takes the work from us. It's always nice to listen to a brand new speaker. If you want to small business related with a bit of search, then, you know, great. That, you know, just let Tricia reach out to Tricia, because she's more the admin person behind all this.
Yeah, I'm just Tricia, your biz watchdog. You can find me. You can reach out on Meetup as well. Just reach out to me and let me know. All right, everyone, I will have this up on YouTube in the next week, and we will see you all in the new year. Hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a very happy New Year.
Yeah,
See you all in 2024.
Thank you.
Bye,
Stay safe.
everyone.